Hi, welcome to the Whiskey Catapult, where we catapult around the world trying whiskeys from all over the world. So today, we got a fun one. We're catapulting over to Japan for Nikka Whiskey from the Barrel Extra Marriage. So I've had the regular Nikka from the Barrel, and I actually have it over here. I'm going to do a comparison with this one in a minute. But I found this one at my local shop. It is a 500 milliliter bottle, which is a little bit smaller than the regular one. And it's 51.4%. So I like the regular Nikka from the barrel. I think it's pretty good. But I'd heard good things about this one. So I want to be able to give it a try. And thankfully, I was able to find a bottle. One of my friends found it at a local, I think, Total Wine. And by the time I got there, they were sold out. But this is I want to say I got this one for $75, $80 US. So not too bad. Not super happy with the 500 milliliter bottle, but it is what it is. And based on the price of a lot of other Japanese whiskey, it's not too bad of a deal. It's got a little bit of dust, some funk earthy notes on the front. There is some fruit in there, but it's very, very subtle. All right, let's try. It's almost got like an earthy peat note to it. Not quite smoky. It's very, very subtle. But I would not have expected that. It's got a lot of rich fruit, some vanilla, a little bit of oak spice in there. It reminds me of Yoichi, if you've ever had that from Nikka. And that could be part of the blend on this one. Yep, still has just subtle earthiness in the finish. The finish is actually kind of light. I would have thought the finish would have been a little bit more based on the ABV on this one. But so Nikka from the Barrel is blended whiskey from Japan and from Scotland. They don't disclose it on the bottle, unfortunately. I kind of wish they would. I personally don't have an issue with blending whiskey from different companies. I've had a couple from Adelphi. They do a whole range where they'll blend in Scotch and New Zealand whiskey, or Scotch and whiskey from Sweden or Japan or wherever. And they disclose it, and that's, I think, more of a selling point than anything, because I'm always curious about stuff like that. Like, what does Scotch and New Zealand whiskey taste like? Spoiler alert for that one. It's pretty good. But Nikka owns a distillery in Scotland, and there was some, I don't want to say uproar, but some concern in the community that when they found out that a lot of what's blended in the regular release is Scotch. And so it doesn't say distilled in Japan, it just says product of Japan. But if, there's some purists out there, and that's fine. But as long as it's good, that's all I care about. But it would be nice for them to disclaim it a bit. Okay. Yeah. Still has those rich fruits coming through. Subtle earthy peat on there. Not smoky peat. If you ever had Kalila, that's kind of that ashy, smoky peat. This one's more of like a peated Budahaben. I think has much more of an earthy peat kind of style to it. But it's very subtle in the background. It just kind of adds to everything else going on with the fruits and the spices. Yeah. All right. I'm going to add a little bit of water to this because it's 51%. Probably would help. And then I'm also going to pour the regular Nikka from the barrel and see if I can spot some differences. So this is the extra marriage one. So it's only They just age it for a little bit longer than the regular release. So I don't, from what I could see, I don't think they take the components that are aged longer and then blend them together. I think when they're making the blend, they marry it in the barrel for longer, which in turn ages it for a little bit longer. My understanding of it. Excuse me. So let the water rest on this one. This is the original Nikka from the barrel. The nose is almost the same, but this one's a little bit softer. The flavors, or the nose, isn't coming through as strong as the extra marriage. But as far as, it still has that earthy peat, little bit of funk. This is very different. I wouldn't think these would be the same whiskey. This one doesn't have. I'm not getting any earthy peat on this one. Any peat at all. A lot of fruit. A little bit of butterscotch. You could technically argue these are two different whiskeys, but I wouldn't even consider these or think that these would be related. I thought they'd be more on par than this, but this is a very different experience of what I'm getting from the regular one. The regular one's nice, though. Yeah, it almost has a medicinal note in there. It's hard to describe. It's not quite, and I get this with some Taiwanese whiskey. It's almost like a nail polish remover kind of note. Not necessarily in a bad way for this one. In some Taiwanese whiskeys, it's really strong, and I would consider it a bad note on those. But different whiskey, different review. A little bit of vanilla on this one. That's wild. I really thought these would be a lot closer. Not at all. All right, a little bit of water. Clear that out. Back to the extra marriage with a little bit of water in there. Yeah. I think the earthy note's a little bit stronger with water. I think it opened it up a little bit more. It's not quite as so, but the dusty note faded a little bit. So they kind of shifted on dominance of the earthy note being a little bit more stronger now that it's opened up with water, and that dusty note kind of going down. And this is a relatively fresh crack, so there's a possibility that it just needs some time to open up. That fruit really pushes forward. The earthy peat note is still there, but it's kind of dipped down a little bit, unlike the nose that shifted. That's fascinating. I wonder if the blends are different on these. My regular Nikka from the barrel is probably about 3 years old at this point. And I just picked this one up last month. But since it's a blend, whenever they make a blend, they usually go for blending whiskeys that are a similar profile. That way, whenever you pick up one of their blends, you get kind of the same consistency for the most part. Obviously, this is a different release. It's the extra marriage one, so variation would make sense, but that's a pretty big difference of the two releases there. That's wild. So this one I feel like has more of a Yuichi kind of influence. The regular release, almost a little bit more closer to Miyagikyo, which are both really good Nikka whiskeys. I'll probably do a review on those later. I actually got the a rum cast finish version of both of those, and they're fantastic. But if you like Yoichi, you'd really like this one. Yeah, nothing. It doesn't change too much with water. Fruit jumping out more. Earthiness kind of subtly calming back a little bit, but it's still there. Actually, I think the finish, yeah, the finish is actually a little bit stronger now that it's opened up. I wouldn't have guessed that. It lingers a little bit longer than it did before. So, this one's nice. If I could find this readily available, yeah, I don't think I'd buy another one. This is worth trying if you can find it at a bar or your friend has one. If you like Yoichi, this is a good one to get. If you're not able to get your hands on this one, I would recommend getting a bottle of Nikka Yoichi. Very similar profile. It's not going to be exactly the same, but pretty close. That's a good alternative to this one if you're not able to find it. I would recommend the regular Nikka from the barrel, but it's very different. I can't do that. So, yeah. But if you like Nikka whiskeys, I think this is a good pickup. I'm happy with the purchase. At this point, probably wouldn't buy one again, partially because cost and size and, availability. Whereas I can get a bottle of Nikka Yoichi for, I think in my area it's about $90-$95, so a little bit more expensive, but it's also a 700 milliliter bottle versus a 500. So it costs, I say it's kind of a wash, but it's pretty similar on that point. But yeah, this one's fun. I would not have expected these two to be so different. Yeah, that's wild. This is their regular Nikka from the barrel. And hopefully the going back and forth wasn't too confusing since they have the same name. Yeah, it's great. So yeah, really enjoyed this one. If you like Nikka, this is a fun pickup. If you're not able to, Yoichi is a good alternative. So yeah, hopefully you liked it. Catch you all on the next one.